So my guest today is Martin Parsons, who's been in children's stage shows such as Playdays, Thomas and Friends, Sooty, and Martin MacDonald's Farm. So please welcome Martin Parsons. So thank you for joining me, Martin. So my first question is how to get into the theatre business.
Well, after going to drama school, really, I mean, first of all, thank you very much. Nice to see you and everybody. Thank you for asking me. It's lovely to chat about all these old times. Yeah, lots of lovely children's shows there. But I first started doing amateur shows years ago. I mean, in the 1990s, um, when I was doing other jobs, having left school, and I realised that I was rubbish at those other jobs and didn't really like them. Not because the jobs were rubbish, just because I wasn't very good at them. So I thought, I was doing amateur shows, and I thought, well, it'd be great to, if that were possible, to make that a career. And then I was very lucky that a job came up at my local theatre in the box office, which was the Theatre Royal Brighton, excuse me, which is a lovely old Victorian theatre down there. And I worked there for some time, and that sort of just grew my love of theatre very much, because of course you then could see plays week in, week out, and children's shows, and comedies, and dramas, and musicals, and all kinds of things. So I met lots of lovely people there, and I'm very grateful to them for taking me on and giving me a chance to work there. And then I went to drama school, and that sort of led to being in a world of theatre. Then I went to drama school, so that's how I got into this ridiculous but wonderful world of pretending and playing and being in theatre.
How did your first Playday show came about?
How did the first Playdays show come about? Well, I had been doing, I've got lots of brothers and sisters, so I loved all those sort of children's shows on television, like Rainbow and Sooty and Playdays, Postman Pat, and all these traditional sort of now classic children's shows, Bagpuss and the Clangers, and all those wonderfully imaginative things. And now, what happened? What was the timeline? I left drama school in 1996 and had done various pantomimes and plays and what have you. And then in the stage, I think it was the stage newspaper, I saw an advert looking for people to be cast in Playdays. So literally, I sent off my CV and photograph, as you did in those days, to the address of the company that was producing it, which was a company called Felgates, which have a great pedigree in children's entertainment. Cynthia Felgate, who established it, she was the original. I think I'm right in saying the original producer of Play School, which started, I think, on BBC in 1964, maybe, perhaps a little bit later. So anyway, yeah. So I answered this advert, and they said, "Okay, we'll come in and see you." And so I went in and saw them, and we talked about it, and I had to do various things, and that's how it started.
What tour was it?
It was a tour called Playdays Crash Bang Wallop, which is a fun title. In those days, Playdays was on television in that sort of play school time slot. And there were various theatre tours. Each year was a different one. And this one was called, Playdays Crash Bang Wallop. And I remember I was taking over from somebody who was playing the bus driver, sort of presenter character in it. A chap called, was it Lee Lyford, I think, was playing the bus driver. So I went down, they sent me down to, once I got the job, because I sang and did the script, and we spoke about it and how I'd love to do it, and they would like me to do it. And so I went, then they haven't accepted the job. They then sent me down to Plymouth Pavilions to see the show and meet everyone. And I could speak to Lee there and talk about what it was like doing it and what I'd need to do to take over, and get his advice. And everyone was very kind and welcoming, and that's how that developed.
Who was the cast in that tour?
Who was the cast in that tour? Let me think. Well, so the lead, Mr. Jolly, was an actor called Alistair Ross, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
And he had been a drummer in the Buddy Holly story. He'd been one of the Crickets, the drummer character and he was a drummer as well in the Buddy Holly story in the West End and on tour. And then Peggy Patch was one of the, I don't know, you must know Playdays, do you? Peggy Patch was one of the little rag doll characters. And she was played by a lovely lady called Julia Walton. who was brilliant in it and had a beautiful singing voice and was a really friendly and talented lady. And she played Peggy Patch. And then this cast had been doing it for quite a while, so they all left during my time there. So I was the new chap, and I did it with them for a few months, and then the cast changed. But the original cast, who else did we have? We had a lady called Polly Cheeseman, who was smashing at playing Poppy the Cat. Gary Jordan was a very talented performer. He was playing the sort of eccentric professor character, Mr. TikTok. I've forgotten somebody. Who was it? So it's Mr. Jolly, the bus driver. That was me. Mr. Wybird, of course. How can I forget Wybird? Wybird was being played by Alex Lovell, who was also a presenter character in it. And she now, I think, presents with BBC South West.
Yeah.
In Bristol, or maybe beyond. Yeah, she was great as well. She did a wonderful Wybird voice. So we were very lucky to have such a great team. And then there was a lady called Julie and a company manager called Graham and Jeff, who were the backstage team, and Tim, who was on sound. So all together, yeah, it was a full-on schedule, but a great fun show to do.
Did you met Freddie Marks and Roger and Freddie? Who actually written
Yes, Freddie had written the show. I didn't meet him so much on that show because I rehearsed it to take over from Lee, as I said. But when that tour finished, which I think was sort of autumn time 1998, the next year the cast changed, but I stayed. And the next tour was Playdays' Wybird's Lucky Number, which Freddie Marks had also written. Because I was in that from the start and therefore was there at the initial rehearsals, Freddie Marks came in, as did Liz Kitchen, the composer, and the director, Andrew Thomas. So Freddie and Liz in particular, of course, were children's television legends. Freddie, of course, I'd seen when he was in Rainbow when I was a child, and he took over from Matthew Corbett from when it was Rod Jane and Matthew, and then became Rod Jane and Freddie. So it was great to work with him. And again, it's a pleasure to be surrounded by such talented people, because he wrote the script for the play, and he wrote the lyrics as well.
Yeah. Did you met any of the TV performers on Playdays?
Did the TV performers on Playdays? Yes, we did meet, but not in the context of the live tour. In those days, Felgates, the production company who produced Playdays on television and the Playdays live tour, they had sort of a Christmas party for people that have worked with them, which was very lovely. So there we got to meet Andy Hockley, who was a brilliant Mr. Jolly on television, and Carl Woolley, who was the TV bus driver, and Ellie Darville, who was the Wybird. Who else did we have? Who else did we meet? Well, Ian Loughran was, and Will Brenton. Ian Loughran, they were powerhouses in children's television then and for many years. And who else? Now, who was the? I'm just trying to think who else there was. Sally Pricing, of course. She was Peggy Patch on the television. So yeah, there was a bit of an overlap there, but not so much work-wise. More at the Christmas party for the company.
What's it like playing the bus driver on tour?
Oh, it's great fun playing the bus driver. Yeah, because you're there with this audience of children who've come to know and love Playdays, and they have enjoyed it. So it's not like a normal show. Doing a show like that, it's not like a normal show where you would expect an audience to warm up gradually and, by the end be singing and dancing and up on their feet, perhaps. Instantly, the children know what Playdays is, and they know the and the theme tune, and they know the characters. So instantly, you've got that warmth and that love that the television series has engendered. And that was, I think, my first time touring around the country. Yes, it was. So not only was it fun to meet the audiences, but it was also fun to work on such I thought it was a terrific show with a terrific cast, but also to travel around the country, visiting various cities and sites and tourist attractions. That was a great thing as well, a great pleasure of the job, because we would go from Cambridge to Cardiff to Newcastle to Worthing, the length and breadth of the country, which is a great privilege of the job, really.
And also you did the other one, Summertime Special as well in...
Oh, yes, that's right, Summertime That's right. Gosh, I'd forgotten about that. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, that's right. I did the summertime summertime special. Yeah, summertime sing along.
Yeah,
Why? Was it Playday summertime sing along? Something like
yeah.
that. Yes, that was a shorter. That was a shorter one, and I don't think was as popular because Playdays wasn't on the television by then. I think I'm right in saying, but nevertheless, great fun to do, and again visit lots of seaside theatres in the summer, which of course can't be bad.
And also, you produced these cassettes back in the day.
Yes, well, yes, that's right. Yeah, what's that? So, Crash Bang One Open Wide Bird's Lucky Number. Yes, I've got those upstairs somewhere. There they are. Yes, that's right. That's right. So Felgate's produced those, and they are recordings of the live show that they took. I'm not sure which theatre it was. It might even say in the slip. But yes, it's nice to have that record of them as well.
Yeah, after you become the bus driver, you became a train driver on the Thomas and Tank Engine Arena Tour. How did that come about?
Yes, I think I seem to specialise in playing fantasy, the drivers of fantasy vehicles, didn't I? So yes, from Playdays bus drivers to driving Thomas the Tank Engine. Well, that was the same really. So I'd met Ian Lachlan, who was one of the creators of Playdays and the director of the Thomas the Tank Engine live tour. I'd met him briefly in various capacities, possibly at one of the Playdays parties, but at various functions at Elstree Film Studios, where he was working on producing the children's program Tweenies, which was huge at the time. And Ian must be the biggest talent in children's television and theatre of the last 40 years. I mean, I eventually was very lucky to get to work with him, and how it came about was again an advert in the Stage. So I'd met him slightly, and I knew that sort of children's entertainment world very well, because of having done Playdays and various other things. So I saw an advert in the Stage and Television Today newspaper, and again it said wanted cast members for Thomas the Tank Engine live tour, and it particularly appealed because Thomas the Tank Engine was the children's show people sort of said could never be done because of it being trains and it being on such quite a big scale. So that was quite tempting as well to try and get involved in that. So again, answering a job advert. I mean, like anybody else for any job, you see an advert, you answer it, and then hopefully you get asked to be interviewed.
Yeah, I worked with Ian Lachlan a few times on his online TV show, Chimps.
Ah, you know how lovely he is then.
Yeah. And also, what's it like being an iconic kids show but in arena tour?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Everything as far as the audience interaction on Playdays is true of Thomas the Tank Engine in an arena tour. That love for the characters and that love for the well-known tunes. And as soon as the Thomas the Tank Engine theme tune would kick in, the audience would go mad. But so everything I said about the Playdays audience is true, multiplied times 10 for the Thomas audience because it's in an arena, and of course because Thomas is a globally known character because of the books and the television program, which Playdays isn't. Playdays is a very British kind of children's show, but Thomas, well, it's still going strong, isn't it? So yeah, it's quite a mind-blowing experience, playing Wembley Arena with Thomas the Tank Engine and seeing the audience's reactions to that. Yeah, it's something I'll never forget. Brilliant.
What's it like meeting the Queen at the party at the Palace?
Now, thank you for asking that. Yes, I mean, what a lucky thing. What a fortunate job. So I'd done the two Thomas tours, the big live tour and the all aboard live tour. And I think there was a gap after that. And it looked like perhaps that the Thomas tour wasn't going to go on. Eventually they did another one, but I couldn't do that one because I was already working as a presenter for a shopping TV company. But in between, I think maybe that tour was out, and so they couldn't ask the new cast to do the Thomas show at Buckingham Palace. So that's what they asked me as the original Thomas's driver. So for the Queen's, was it her 80th birthday? Is it 2006? I think there was a party at the Palace, children's party at the Palace, and they had a massive stage in the gardens at Buckingham Palace. And they had lots of children's characters, Paddington Bear and Roald Dahl characters and Thomas the Tank Engine. And so that's what you're talking about, isn't it? When the Queen, we were introduced to the Queen, Percy Copley, the Fat Controller, and I, and various, Dan Coleman on the production team there, we were introduced to the Queen, and I was driving Thomas the Tank Engine in costume in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, which of course is a kind of life experience you never forget. It's a sort of bizarre mix of two ridiculous things that of Thomas the Tank Engine getting you to be introduced to the Queen, the world's longest reigning monarch. You know, that's something you never forget. I would never have got to do that otherwise. Thank you, Thomas the Tank Engine, basically.
How do you drive the trains on stage?
How do you drive the trains? Well, of course they drive themselves because they're. No, I'm just joking. How do you drive them really? They were easy to drive but heavy to drive. So they were they weren't unlike a car or a sort of cross between. They drove it a cross between a real car and a dodging car. I don't know what it's like to drive a milk float, but I'd imagine it perhaps might be similar because they were electric. They would get charged up, and you would have an accelerator pedal on the right-hand side, and you would have a brake. I think a hand brake. I'm pretty sure there was a hand brake. And then on the left-hand side, you would have the canisters where that you would squeeze these fire extinguishers where the steam would come out. So if you wanted to drive and fire the steam at the same time, you'd have to have one foot on the far right-hand side and then lean across to the far left-hand side. I mean, it wasn't massively far. It's not. I'm making a bit of a meal of it, but it wasn't difficult. It was just you had to stretch a little bit to do one and the other at the same time. But there weren't many controls. The main controls were the face ones, and of course you had to. There was a bias as well. You had to press this bias switch, which went to the left or the right, depending on which direction across the track you wanted to get to when you got to points. And we had Anton and Dave and various people on the crew who were brilliant at changing the points and helping us direct the trains as well. So, and then you had Leanne, the stage manager, who could talk to you in an earpiece, who could tell you various things as well, because obviously everyone had to be kept safe. That was the most important thing. So you were in contact with someone all the time, and obviously they could hear you because you had a microphone on, and there were various people keeping an eye on everything. So it wasn't just I might have driven Thomas, and Ed and Rusty might have driven the Percy and James, but there was a whole team, putting it together and making sure that the driving happened properly.
When you did Playdays, what did you have like a golf cart buggy as a Playdays bus on?
No, we didn't have that. Apparently, on the previous tours, they had, like as you say, a little golf cart that was theatrically made up as a prop to be able to be driven on stage to be the play bus, and they also had Rosie the Roundabout, who was at the roundabout stop. I don't know if you remember, was one of the characters on the TV series. When I took over, they didn't have those characters. I don't know why. I suspect it's because they were quite expensive to transport. They probably took up a lot of space and maybe even needed another tour wagon. But it was still a pretty big show with lots of flying and big props when I did it. But then they didn't have those ones, which was a great shame, especially because the Roll Up and Ride on Rosie song was a big memorable Playdays number from the TV show. But no, we didn't have that, unfortunately. But we did have the Y-Tech, which was a big old machine that Y-Bird invented, which was good fun as well.
You worked with a famous bear. What's it like working on the Sooty stage show?
Yeah, Sooty. Oh, I love Sooty. Sooty, my parents said they took me to see Sooty with Harry Corbett in 1970 something at Shoreham by Sea, and then I took my children to see it with Matthew Corbett in Euston at the Bloomsbury Theatre, and then with Spencer K. Gibbons and Connie Crichton at the Worthing Pavilion. So when I then was asked to see if I could do Sooty, that was a real, again, a great memorable life moment. It was terrific working with Sooty. I mean, I'm saying terrific and brilliant about all these things. Sorry if that's a bit boring, but they're just lovely worlds to be able to dip into. I mean, Sooty was quite fraught because I was taking over from somebody else. And there wasn't much rehearsal time. So that was a bit fraught. We had about a month's rehearsal for Thomas. We had about a week's rehearsal for Playdays because I was going in and taking over from someone so that they'd have had longer at the start. But I only had a few days for Sooty because I was the one person that was taking over. But of course, I was the only human being on stage. So that was quite a big challenge to overcome. But yeah, it was, Sooty and Sweep and Sue and little cousin Scampy. What brilliant stars to work with.
Was it hard at the time because the rights were owned by Richard Goodell and there was no new episodes on TV?
It wasn't hard from my point of view because I think at the time the rights, well, that I did it, the rights were owned by Hit Entertainment, I think, and licensed by JB Entertainments. I think it was before Richard Goodell had bought it and done the brilliant job he's doing now with it. So there was a different producer then. That was JB Entertainments, I think, if I remember rightly. So it wasn't hard for me at all. I guess it might have been harder for the producer to get an audience, but I would suspect not really, because the audiences that I saw were very strong and very full. But also, Sooty's got such a cross-generational appeal. You know, grandparents remember it, and parents remember it, and children remember it, and their children and their grandchildren. So, you know, it's such a famous and popular program and set of characters that I don't think it was difficult at all. Certainly not for me, anyway.
How did the Marty MacDonald's Farm came about?
Marty MacDonald's Farm. Well, there's a theme here, isn't there, of comedy children's characters. Marty MacDonald's Farm came about because I had done so much children's theatre after, how many years was it? 20 years. Is that right? Yeah, about 20 years. That I thought, wouldn't it be fun to invent your own characters and produce your own show and give life to those? So that's what my wife Kate and I, who I met on the Thomas the Tank Engine live tour, she was playing Josh, one of the children's characters. So we're married now and living in Dorset, and we thought, wouldn't it be fun to put on our own children's shows? And we had various options. You know, we thought, well, should we go in this direction? And I remember the children's, the sort of themes of various children's shows when I saw them. I remember seeing Sooty in Space, and there were picnic shows and rock and roll style comedy shows for children, and Playdays was a sort of quest show, and Thomas was a traditional sort of story where Thomas was got into a sorry state, but then needed to save the day. So there were various sort of themes and plot lines that I'd done on various children's shows, and we eventually thought, well, a farm introduces a good character, and that's also some good characters, and that's also something that children are familiar with, and that many children's stories have been based around before. So we thought that would seem we could do something new but familiar to audiences to make them come and see the show, or encourage them to come and see the show. And so that's how that was given birth to. We did our first show, gosh, it was 10 years ago, so 2013, October 2013, we did our first show at the Camberley Theatre in Surrey.
You got that sort of Marty MacDonald's Farm idea when Ian did the Fun Song Factory, because it's got loads of songs and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, yeah, that's right, absolutely that. It's very much, I would like to think, Marty MacDonald's Farm in the vein of traditional children's theatre. It follows very much, I would like to think, in the world of Marty MacDonald's Farm, you know, over the hill is Trumpton and Camberwick Green, and then the other direction is probably where the Fun Song Factory team live, and then in the nearby town is where Sooty and Co are. That's the sort of, you know, Rainbow and Zippy and George and Bungle and Jeffrey, they live, you know, a train ride away. So I kind of, perhaps it's a vanity, but I like to think that they occupy a similar world. And now, of course, Ian Lockton's doing Cheeky Chimps, which is very much, you know, of that, you know, of the same type of entertainment. But I mean, you know, I was very lucky to work with Ian, well, all these people, but especially Ian, to have those, to get passed on those traditional sort of children's story influences. And I, you know, take my hat off to him for that, and will be forever grateful. You know, he really is, has done so many fantastic things in that arena.
What are your highlights from those tours?
Highlights from the tours? Oh gosh, there must be so many. I think the highlights from the tours are, there's so many. Obviously, meeting the Queen was one from Thomas the Tank Engine, and I remember the very first Playdays show I did, hearing the Playdays theme. That was Thameside Arena in Ashton-under-Lyne in Greater Manchester. If I had to pick out one highlight or a type of highlight, I think it would be when you're doing a meet and greet afterwards, where you meet the audience and the children come up to you with their Winebird toy or their Thomas the Tank Engine badge or their Pongo the Pig puppet, which is a character from Marty MacDonald's Farm. and you realise, and they enthuse about the show, and you realise that it has a life beyond what they've seen on stage. They're going to go home and they're going to talk about the show and read the books and watch the DVDs and listen to the soundtracks and talk about it and dream about it. And, you know, and hopefully they're going to enjoy that and hopefully remember that forever. And maybe somebody will tell stories, you know, that are an echo of the ones we've told to their children or become involved in children's entertainment. I must tell you, actually, talking of which, we've got a website which is www.honollymedia.co.uk, and Honolly Media is HONALEE media.co.uk. And the reason I mention that is because not only does that tell adults about the shows and where to come and see them, but also there's a children's page where you can see a map of the world of Marty MacDonald's farm and where all the characters live. And we've also got Crafty's Creepy Castle, which is kind of next door to the farm on the map, and the Easter Bunny lives. Well, we've got some Easter Bunny shows and Father Christmas shows, and they live on the map as well. So you can see this world, and you can download it and color it in. And yeah, so that's the website is for adults and children as well. So that's hopefully a way people can, whatever time of day, wherever they are in the world, can still enjoy an element of our shows as well.
Do you have any funny moments from those tours?
Funny moments from the tours. Well, I mean, mainly the funny moments are in the shows. It's when children react unexpectedly, or I'm trying to think of something in particular. I mean, the great thing about children's audiences is that they take you on by surprise with what they find funny and what they laugh at, or what they might shout out sometimes. Oh, I remember. I remember in one of the shows, I can't think which one it was, there was a baddie character, and of course the children boo and hiss at the baddie character, but everything comes good by the end of Act 2 because, you know, that's what happens in children's land. You know, good triumphs over evil and everyone lives happily ever after, quite rightly so. But I remember at the end of Act 1, there was a sort of cliffhanger and one of the baddie characters was on stage, and one of the children, most of the children were booing, but one of the children who got particularly involved was shouting, "I hate you! I hate you!" at the baddie character. So they got really carried away. And I remember the interval us talking about, oh gosh, I hope they're okay. And of course they were okay because they came to see us afterwards with the meet and greet and everything was fine. But it's really interesting to see children get that involved. And they'd calmed down and they were passionate about it in a positive way later on and had joined in with booing. But yeah, it's interesting, you know, you do have to be very careful at where to pitch things that are emotive for children. So that's an interesting thing you learn doing such entertainment as well. But the audiences, when they get involved like that, are brilliant.
Do you still keep in contact with any cast and crew from those tours?
Yes, absolutely. So Ian Lachlan and I are still in touch, and we've worked together on various things, you know, in recent years, not as intensely as on Thomas the Tank Engine, but you know, various things. We worked on shows at the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry in more recent years. And I was in touch with Justin Fletcher, who played the voice of Harold the Helicopter on Thomas the Tank Engine. I was in touch with him until recently. He also videoed, I think the All Aboard Live tour he videoed for Dan Coleman. So I was in touch with him until recently. And we're working with Bob Golding, who was one of the tweenie voices who I met through working on Thomas at Elstree Film Studios. We're working with him on a play, Ground Rules, next month. He's directing that for Kate and I. So lots of people, and of course through Facebook, you're in touch with various people very easily as well. That's one of the great things about Facebook. How we got in touch, you and I, of course. Julia Walton, who's Peggy, she came to our wedding, Kate and I. So yeah, lots of us are still in touch. There's some people, of course, that it's naturally life takes you a different way and you lose touch with. But Facebook is brilliant, of course, for keeping reconnected.
Do you have any video footage, photographs, or any memorabilia from those shows?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let's have a think. So, I mean, there must be somewhere in an album in my loft, dustily and unlooked at for years, but still very precious. I mean, that's the thing with photos, isn't it? That, you know, we don't see them very often, but when we do, they evoke such memories. There were various backstage photos that were taken of Thomas that I took, in addition to the, you know, formal production photos that were taken of the show. And we all took those and we all enjoyed it. And I particularly, I seem to remember Percy Copley, who played the original Fat Controller, who was, you're a brilliant Fat Controller. When you read the books, he's your perfect idea of the Fat Controller. He was a particular Thomas fan, and he gave us recordings of the Johnny Morris audio readings of the Reverend W. Awdry stories, which were brilliant to have because he was a Thomas fan. I think I'm right in saying he took a lot of photos, particularly to keep a record of it, and it's a great thing that he did. He went to BBC Visual Effects, who built the trains, and he took various photos of the trains in various stages of construction, and he took photos on the tour, as we all did. I seem to remember Ed Nudd, who drove Thomas. No, that was me, who drove James. I seem to remember him having a video camera on the tour, perhaps taking backstage things. I might have misremembered that. Sorry if I have, Ed. But yeah, I seem to remember him being around. Oh, and of course, Morna McPherson. I mustn't forget her. And Emma. And now who was it? Sarah, who played Jenny on the show. I'm just remembered then, of course, Morna is been working on Star Wars recently. She's a lovely lady, and she's been working on Star Wars. You just reminded me of friends that are still in touch. But I've got off the subject. You were asking about photos and videos, weren't you? I haven't got any videos. As I say, I'm pretty sure that Dan Coleman, the producer, asked Justin Fletcher to take a video, and I'm sure he got that. Oh no, he did give me a video of a bit of Act 1 that I could use for my show reel. That's right, but I haven't got the whole thing. No, that was the big live tour. Beg your pardon, the big live tour. But no, it was the big live tour, I think, that Justin took, and he'll have that, and Dan will have that, I'm sure.
Shame you can't. There's no videos on the Playdays stage shows anywhere.
I don't think there are. No, there's no formal videos. I might have in a loft an old dusty VHS of some of the Playdays shows, perhaps. I don't know. I've got a vague memory that I'm not sure I've got a VHS player anymore, but they would be on VHS if they are around. Yeah, now you're saying that, I think I might have. Because most theatres, lots of theatres have monitors that are set up on the circle or front of house so that the stage manager can watch what's going on stage, backstage. And sometimes they've got a video recorder linked up to those so that, that the output of those can be recorded. So there might be, I think I might have a video. I'll have to one day when I'm up in my loft, I shall have to have a look one day and dig them out. Yeah,
that'd be great if that could be uploaded on YouTube. So get that nurtured as well.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. That's a good thought. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because I think only way we can get them lost is from these cassettes.
Well, that's true. And of course even cassettes eventually deteriorate, don't they? Is it that the magnetic coating on the plastic tape comes off after X many years, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to last forever. So I should at least digitize those. I'm not sure as far as YouTube how it goes as far, because of course it's lots of people's copyright with the script and the music.
I think
Barry Bignell. Sorry.
I think it'd be fine because I actually put these up on YouTube anyway.
Oh well, as long. I mean, I don't know. Obviously that's great that you've been able to do that. I'm not sure, as I say, how it works as far as copyright's concerned. But you can only ask the owners, can't you, and see what they say. And if they've got no trouble with that, then happy days. I was just going to mention Barry Bignell as well, because I must mention his brilliant music, which I've worked with in so many shows, and he's been fantastic to work with as well. So a salute to Barry, who which nearly slipped my mind. So apologies.
What's the best advice for someone who gets into the business?
Of children's television or entertainment, or what do you mean? Any particular type or all of it?
All of it.
All of it. Okay. I would say the best advice is do what your heart is telling you. Because it's really easy when people tell you, don't become a performer. It's very difficult and there's no work and there's no pay. I mean, it can be difficult and there can be low pay, but when you do work, it's brilliant, and there can be brilliant pay. So you've got to do what you want to do. I mean, if you can do something, it's hard. So if you can do something else, do that. But if you can't do something else because you love it so much that you can't do anything else because that would be too much of a compromise, do it and enjoy it and make your own work. Kate and I, we're now working all the time because we've produced our own shows and written our own shows. And it's such an enjoyable thing, and it's a wonderful life for us. It's not for everybody, If some people would hate it, but we love traveling around and touring, because we get to be together, which is fantastic, and creating stories and sharing stories with audiences. So find the thing you want to do. I would say find the type of thing you want to do, and as far as the type of production, is it musicals, is it comedies? You can do lots of things, but I think it's useful if you find a particular focus for your attentions, because there's so many producers you could approach. If you like a particular type of thing, you can sort of hone that down, but focus that and go with it wholeheartedly and make your own work and enjoy it, because it's a wonderful way to live a life, I think.
Okay, time's running out, by the way. What are you doing nowadays?
What are we doing nowadays? Well, between now and Christmas, so we're now in August 23. Between now and Christmas 23, Kate and I, we've got 7 tours. So next month, we've got a tour of a comedy called Ground Rules, which Bob Golding, who I mentioned before, is directing. Then we've got a tour of A Christmas Carol, which I've adapted from the Dickens book, which stars Colin Baker and Peter Purves. Colin Baker used to be Doctor Who, and Peter Purves used to be on Blue Peter, among many other things. Then we've got a tour of production called Santa's Christmas Wish. And then after that, we're doing The Hound of the Baskervilles. That's next year. But all the information about all of those is on that website I mentioned earlier, honolulumedia.co.uk. But you mentioned time running out. Sorry, it's been brilliant to speak to you.
You too, and I hopefully look forward to seeing that Playdays videos uploaded as well at some point.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm not sure I'll be able to upload them because, as I say, I'd have to check on the copyright front, and it might be quite a big job, that. And also, I'm not sure how to transfer them, but I shall dig them out for the loft. That'll be the first stage, and just check that I've got them. But fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Ben. All the best to you, and thank you for the chat. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you so much.